One. And we're live. Hi, everybody. Robert Ian Bonnick here. Tropical Nomad. We're in the podcast room today here, and we have another great show lined up. So as you know, SpeakuP Monday, an award-winning open format deep dive Q&A that gets to the heart and soul of our guests with the idea, and I guess not even the idea, it's wired into the DNA of the show that, you know, motivation, inspiration, reminders, insights come out of it, which can help us down our road to go on to the next step of wherever it is that we want to go. So Luciano Armani, who I thought was Italian, but actually is not Italian at all, from Argentina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, man. It's good to be here.
Beautiful. And look, so I guess if you're in the state where you're looking, you know that in your life there's something that isn't quite gelling, or something that you feel you're not quite aligned to what your mission and what your soul's purpose is calling forward, then tonight is a great show for you, because Luciano Armani is a guide, right? So when I have the guests come on, I ask them to fill out a form, and like profession. Luciano here wrote guide. Like, I think it's the shortest description of profession which I've ever seen, which is pretty cool, right? But as you mentioned about a minute ago, that's what you do. You help people to align themselves to their soul's purpose, to their mission, which I think is so important, especially right now when we're in this position of COVID and everything else going on, that it's easy for us, mental health is a thing. It's easy for us to lose our way, to be, distracted by what we read, what we see on the media, right? Which is putting us in a whole different direction, frequency, and resonance, right? So my name is Robert Ian Bonnick. I am an advisor, so I help speakers, I help entrepreneurs, leaders, and coaches turn their story, or give their story, impact and income. So today, Luciano Armani, a guide. So looking forward to diving deep. So hang on. Now, Luciano, first question was going to be where you're from, but we know you're from Argentina. But just going back to what you mentioned about that you're a guide, which I love, right? But how did you find your purpose? Because you help others to find their mission, but how did you find yours?
Okay, well, that took a while. Yeah. It was many, many years of searching in a huge variety of disciplines, I've been in the path of meditation for over 15 years now. I've done all the varieties of yoga that you can think of for like 5 or 6 hours a day for a couple of years. I've done plant medicines. I've studied psychology. Like the list is really long. Biohacking. I've done a lot of stuff to find what was really inside there. What is this thing that really wants to come out? And somehow I was always a little bit stubborn when I was a kid, because my mom wanted me to be a dentist, and I was like, I don't want to be a dentist. and it really took me a long time to figure out this thing, well into my 20s, and I can say even my 30s, until all the pieces came together. So I would say the answer for that is looking within. That's how I found it. Yeah.
So this looking within, right? There may be some people here watching aware that the journey starts within, because the people watching this show are probably those who are maybe a little bit further down the road when it comes to their own self-development or their own unfolding, like an onion, different layers are falling off to get to the core of who they are, pure spirit or whatever it might be for them. So out of all the things that you did, and of course everyone's journey is different, right? Mm-hmm. But whatever comes up first, right? So out of all the different modalities, experiences, things that you did, which of those things brought the most value to what you do now?
Without a doubt, I would say meditation, without a doubt. because that provides the foundational structure for you to be able to build on top. If you are, like the topic of today is conditioning. If you are have conditioning from your parents, from your country, from the people that you have around, your friends, we're bombarded with how we are supposed to behave or who we are supposed to be, like constantly bombarded with that. If you cannot find a place inside that is speaking, that is saying something important, and be quiet in that space, there's no way to go forward. You know, it's always a maze. It's gonna be complicated. It's gonna be a mess. Of course, once you find that place of stillness and you can really touch that deep part of you that wants to go in a direction, there are a lot of tools. I use a lot of systems that can use the mind to build structures to say like, oh, maybe I should do things like this or like that. You know, I always like to ask people like the most common questions in conditioning, you know. How many hours do you guys think it's okay to work every day? You know, how many years do you need to study to be successful at something? Is it okay to have a relationship with one person or with multiple people? Do you sleep with this person in the same bed or you have separate houses? And I know people from all different backgrounds that can answer extremely different answers to these same questions. But if we don't even have the possibility, because in my country there wasn't, everyone was the same, to break the idea that you have to be in a particular way, there is no way forward. So the first thing is inspiration. Silence and inspiration to say like, this is possible. You know, look, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah.
You know, like this thing about conditioning, right? So for you, you mentioned you're brought up in Argentina. I haven't been to Argentina yet. I had an Argentinian girlfriend once for a little while.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
From Cordoba. There you go. And but here's the thing, right? So how were you conditioned, and what were, you know, because some people don't even know they're conditioned. Some people may be watching saying, well, I'm not conditioned. I'm the person that I was born to be. I'm the person that I wanted to be. I'm not conditioned at all. So it's this concept of, it's difficult to see the picture when you're in the frame.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So then what are some telltale signs that you've been conditioned, and relating that back to how were you conditioned growing up?
This one is pretty easy. Like if you wake up in the morning, and to really start your day, you need to drink a coffee. And by noon, it's like, I need something sweet too. And by the weekend, you need to go out and do a lot of drugs or go listen to very loud music. Like if you need to numb yourself to be able to continue your daily routine, yeah, maybe something is not working.
Got it. And what about you? So how were you conditioned growing up? You mentioned your mum wanted you to become a dentist, yeah, right? But how are you conditioned when you grew up in Argentina?
All over the place. Argentina is it's not a developed country like economically, so we're very limited in the things that we might want to do. You know, like, of course, even if you're born in the UK or in the States and then you want to be a musician, your parents are going to kind of like give you like I don't know. But in Argentina, it's even worse. You know, anything that is not like very straight and very like blocky is kind of like, no, you're going to starve like that, you know?
So it's this thing about parents, right? They come in with their stuff. So as you mentioned, and we had a beautiful girl on last week, not a girl, a woman, Julia, and she was talking about Russia. So part of the show is about us uncovering and seeing what drives us and what conditions us. So when we can see it, we can do something about it, right? First step. So for her, you know, her parents were growing up into this environment where there were two very powerful wars. There was a civil war as well. So your neighbor became your enemy. The walls have ears, so you don't want to speak, because the minute you speak, the next minute on the door, not even knocking, is secret police coming to take you away, either to kill you or to torture you. So it's a very specific type of conditioning. So where we got to was that, you know, a lot of Russians who come here, just in general, I felt they're being unfairly treated, you know, come with this survival mentality that was conditioned within them from their parents all the way through, and the environment that they grew up in was that supported that conditioning, right? So then the people that the clients that you have, is there at this point in time, we're in a very specific situation that we call it the COVID situation. So what sorts of people are coming to you with what sorts of challenges at the moment?
To be honest, like all kinds of people, like from many different backgrounds. I'll just pick one example out of all. There was this woman that was feeling burned out on a job that she didn't like, and she was feeling overwhelmed at home and having conflicts with her husband all the time. And we use some of these systems that one of them is called human design, and we use some of these systems to try to find a bridge for her to be able to speak with her husband on the same level, and according to her profile, she's more of a person that likes to do charity work and has more like a visionary kind of thing, like a more social kind of thing, and the husband has completely the opposite, which is a very practical, foundational, survival kind of like way of seeing things. So we try to find a way in which they can both know they have these profiles and they also have these conditionings, and they could just start speaking to each other, and it was really interesting. She quit that job and started doing something that she liked more. A lot of opportunities came her way. She was scared that nothing was going to come. But she sent me a message later and saying like, oh, my husband is telling me she's falling in love with me again, because she's really seeing me like what he was seeing before is just like a robot, someone that was just going through the motions of the day. And this also impacted the relationship with her kids and so on and so forth.
So then human design, so that's the one with birthdays and time of birth and all the rest of that. So maybe explain to people here, so let me backstep. So what I feel that you're saying is that, so you have a whole bunch of different modalities in your, let's call it a toolkit, just for now. Yeah. Great. And then people come to you in order to find their path. Now that could be to reconnect to their path, or literally to find their path from scratch. Okay, and then using meditation to allow you to be in that state of awareness, then you're able to feel which modalities from your toolkit is applicable for which person sitting before you.
Yeah, I mean, many of the tools you can use for anyone, but sometimes you see, I see exactly what your thing is, like if I can tell one thing about myself, I'm really perceptive. Like I don't miss anything, like I see your eyes, I see a slight movement of the hand when you're seeing something, I see what's happening. So I think my expertise in this case is being able to see, there's your problem. We can use this tool for that. This is the thing for you.
Got it. Love that. And then, so the human design element. So I've heard of human design, and for a little while, for maybe the last year. And then finally a friend said, right, Robert, you're going to do this human design. I said, fine, do me. Let's do the human design. He said, okay, what's your name? My name. Where were you born? So I was born, right? What's your date of birth? What time? I don't know. So I don't know the time of birth. I grew up differently in children's homes, and for whichever reason, my mum's passed away, but my dad, who I've met again recently, they do not know. He didn't even know, even if it was morning or afternoon. It's like, come on, give me a break. So human design, what is it? How does it work? And how do you apply it? Yeah.
Well, the first thing is like, even if you just have just the day, that you can work with it, because it's all about the human design system is a combination of astrology and the I Ching. The I Ching is a Chinese ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom. This is the book of changes. So all of the changes that are happening, like daily, on weekly, monthly, years, lifetimes, eons, like they're like really, really big cycles of what's happening with like the movements of humanity and everything, so on and so forth. So this guy called Ra mixed the two together and came up with this other system using astrology. There are two ways to grab this. You can have it the more scientific way or the more practical observational way. In a way, like they're having people observing, like they're the celestial bodies in the sky, some things happen. when this same celestial body is in this position, something is happening. And throughout the centuries of observation, you can say like, yeah, this always ends up happening when this is there. So this is one way, it's an observational way, that in the same way that you can say that the tides affect the oceans, and that's as clear as day, the more distant celestial bodies also have an influence on what's happening planetarily. So that's the observational, practical way. And then there's also a more scientific way. I don't know if you've heard of neutrinos.
No, I haven't.
So the neutrino is the smallest particle that we have found in nature, and it's a particle that doesn't have any mass, practically no mass. So it goes through everything. And it goes almost at the speed of light at the same time. So it goes very fast. So the theory that we have at that scientific level is that these neutrinos are everywhere, like billions and trillions of neutrinos going on everywhere. But they have a certain information. They carry a certain imprint, a certain color within them. And when these neutrinos are, the sun is one of the greatest emitters of neutrinos in our solar system. Trillions of neutrinos every second. So when those neutrinos pass through the sun, like let's say the sun is like a signal emitter, and then they are filtered to some other celestial bodies that are in the sky, the neutrino message changes. Yeah, so that imprint is affecting you right now because the neutrino weather is different, and also has an impact on you at the moment of your birth.
Got it. Wow. That's cool. Like I've never, obviously, neutrinos, I'd never heard of before, and just hearing that when they pass through the sun, that I get now why the time of birth is important, right, for human design. Wow, that's crazy. So now I want to go back to your perceptiveness. You mentioned before that you don't miss anything, right? So, like, where did that come from? Because, my first question is where do you think that perception that you have, which is so finely tuned and honed, like, where did that come from, whatever comes into your mind?
There's two sides of this. The first, there are different, for instance, in human design, there are different types of auras that you can have. So different people can have different gifts. Yeah, and this is one of the greatest things that human design gives. I am of a type that's called a projector. And it's a type of person that deals really well one-on-one with another person, just with another person. And our aura penetrates the other person. So it's very easy for us to perceive like whatever's happening on someone else. And at the same time, I've trained that. So I had that natural talent, and I trained that with like decades of meditation. So my perception, my awareness, let's say, it's always very clear and clean. And so you bring something in, and for me, it's like, this is different. This is not what is always there. So it's training and a natural talent, let's say.
And just before we started, I mentioned a little story, like, you mentioned that, hey, you always seem to be quite positive and up and all, and so on. I said, yeah, I am, but I go through moments, right? And as I said before, like, just before we started here, I got some news that it didn't shock me, it kind of upset me in a way. And then I was there thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? It's like an energy that you could describe as being uncomfortable. And then I was there thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? And then so what I did is I took off my shoes, sneakers, and then we're here in Tropical Nomad, so there's some grass over here. And I just went into the grass, stood up, and I'm in a position standing up with my palms like this, if you can see, with my hands down by my side. And there's this form of meditation which I do, which is meditation for the planet. And the first one is about surrender, right? And it's surrendering to what we call the energies, right? Call it whatever you want, the energies. And just through doing that, then I was just able to find that path back to acknowledging what just happened, why it happened, and where I could stand with it. And then it lost its charge, meaning it didn't any longer affect me in that way. And I was able to transmute that energy, which means I was able to turn that uncomfortable feeling energy in my own skin into awareness, understanding, ending kind of in joy. It's like, I got it. That's the reason why that happened. And then I was able to make, I left somebody a voice message who, if he's watching this, he knows it is you, right? So I left somebody a voice message that cleaned up what happened before. So that's one of the things which I use to get me back to center. So now for you, as a guide, right? Now, I'm guessing sometimes you have days that maybe aren't really going to plan.
Who doesn't?
Right? So then, like, what do you do? Now, this might come in the form of you maybe remembering and maybe telling us about it, right? What was the last time, or when was the last time that something like that happened to you? What happened? And what did you do? Now, the reason why I ask this question is because I look at you, and I've seen you here a few times, and you look like a remarkably centered human being, and I'm sure you are. And for some people, not necessarily me, but for some people, it's like this feeling, you know when you put someone on a pedestal and you think that, hey, this person is like this all the time and I don't want to, interrupt their flow, or I can't be like them, or we have some of these feelings come up. So when we have people sitting next to me like you are now, it's interesting because I find that when people can connect with somebody and say, well, actually, they have bad days too. Or actually, they have moments of doubt sometimes. And it's then kind of what do they do in that situation that then allows them to feel, this sense of like, well, I'm actually doing okay, and I could learn something from this person. I might give them a call and go and see them as a client or something. So just in case you've lost where we were going. So the question is, if you can pinpoint the last time you had a moment which was off center for you, or a moment that things weren't going to any sort of plan you may have had in your head, maybe there was some uncomfort there for a momentary period of time. What was it, and what did you do to bring yourself back?
Well, first I want to dispel the idea that anyone is perfect and never has bad days or anything like that. I'm sorry the social media is telling you that story. It's not true.
Man, brother! Tell it how it is, brother! Tell the truth!
I think we all have off days. It's escaping my memory, like when was the last time that I had an episode like this. But I'll tell you what I do, because it's usually most of the time the same. The first thing is don't try to run away from it. You need to stay with it. And the second thing is don't feed it. And I'll go deeper into that. So let's say, I don't know, you had an experience with your girlfriend or with your job, you got fired from your job or whatever that is. Okay. You take the emotional charge of that, and awareness, anyone that's been a meditator for a while can tell you this. Awareness has a capacity to erode emotion or any kind of perception. If you stay with the thing, eventually it will start diminishing. Yeah? But at the same time, the mind has a capacity to throw fuel into it. So the trick here is not to start throwing fuel into it. You had an altercation with your partner, and what a lot of people will do is kind of like start remembering all the other times that you had a problem with this person. Oh, and remember that time she did this? Oh, just and you start fueling until you're like completely on a rage, So I think that the awareness first of this is happening, let's not run away, let's not do drugs or whatever, like escape this in any way or go to a loud place. Just stay with it and stay with the discomfort, because I think one of the main problems we have in the world nowadays is we're trying to escape the lows. And it's a huge problem, because there's drugs and violence and all those kinds of things comes because people can't accept the lows. And social media is not really helping, because it's portraying an idea that everyone is always in the highs and the lows are for some kind of loser somewhere,
You're bad and wrong if you have a low. That you have a low,
So I think it goes with the thing I answered before. First, accept that everybody has lows and nobody is high all the time. And when you have those lows, don't run away from them and don't feed them. I think the daily meditation practice will give you so much in this, and also to not lash out at this other person. Not say things that you will regret. Not try to hurt the other person because you're hurt. Or make a decision that you will regret in the future. So basically just feel it, take a nap if you need to, take the day off,
Okay, so we're going to go deeper, right? So I have kids. Maybe some people here have kids as well. And if you do, especially young ones, right, you find that these beautiful beings, right, the beautiful beings, right, they know. So there's a saying, right, which is, how is it that your kids, for some of us, it's our best friends, right? And not necessarily kids, it's like our friends. Like this one friend always knows the button to push. So when it comes to kids, it's like, how is it that kids know which button to push that just pisses me off, that gets me to that point, right? The answer is because they installed the buttons in the first place. So they know exactly where to find them. Now, so bringing this into a parental, I'm not sure if you had any parents as clients, I'm sure you have. So bringing this into a parental situation, right? So your kid is there driving you nuts and you've really taken the bait, right? You've really taken the bait, been meditating for years, but right now it doesn't matter. You're like, this kid is driving me nuts. You haven't got an opportunity, right, to go and take the day, haven't got an opportunity to go over here and just check out the flowers or take your shoes off, right, and go stand on the grass with your hands up in a surrender position, right? You haven't got time for that. What do you do? What do you do?
Well, the first thing that you need to do is learn to manage your rhythms. Because a lot of people are overwhelmed. They're working too much. They're overreaching in their lives, and of course, the kid drops a glass of water in the table, and you explode, which is completely disconnected from what actually happened. So the first thing that I would say is pace yourself. You need to know when your string is too taut. When you're already at the breaking point. And most people are years of being too tight.
Years of too tight conditioning, right?
Yeah, I mean you're overworked, you're trying to grind through life, and of course you have kids and you have responsibilities and everything's piling up, so your fuse is very short, So okay, try to pace yourself in that case, and work with the conditioning. Why are you working so much? You're not even enjoying it, or whatever it is. But let's say you cannot do that. Yeah. Let's say you're already in the pressure cooker and the thing has exploded. Work with conscious communication. In that case, don't treat the kid as a kid. Treat it as a human being. And it's okay, whatever's happening, have a honest conversation with the kid. And the kid is pretty smart. He they're really good manipulators too, like you said, he installed that program. Yeah, he did. He's not he's pretty sharp. So if you have a real conversation with him and you treat him like an adult, and particularly don't try to candy coat the world and show your own vulnerability too. Because sometimes, I remember when I was a kid, you think your parents are some kind of superhero in the sky that has everything under control. And it's our fault because we try to portray that to them because we want to protect their childhood, but we don't give them the reality of the world. We don't need to give them the full thing, but at least sometimes some vulnerability and honesty is hey, Dad is really tired today. This thing is I'm having a hard time, with this. And the kid might be quite understanding. Maybe no. Maybe he will throw a tantrum.
Yeah. So I'm getting a picture, right? Can you imagine this beautiful guy being a kid with the cool hair, looks a bit like Jesus, right? He looks like the South American version of Jesus. You heard it here first. Sorry, right? So I have a great smile, right? I can imagine you being naughty, right, as a kid, the one who's always in trouble. Anyway, don't ask that question. But the question that comes up, right? So if you remember you as a kid, right, and what if we come into this life, right, if this is the case, with a lesson maybe to learn or a lesson to help us to find our direction in life. So what would have been for you one of the biggest challenges you had as a kid, right? Biggest challenges you had as a kid, and how did you transmute that to become who I see before me now? So your biggest challenge as a kid growing up, Argentina, and how did you transmute that to become who you are now?
Well, I was one of the quiet kids, to be honest. I remember my first day in kindergarten, I saw a couple of kids brawling on the playground, and I was kind of what? Why are you fighting? Like I couldn't grasp it. My mind just couldn't get around it. And my whole like childhood, I was one of the quiet kids. You know, I wasn't like speaking out a lot or anything. I think you have to practice it like consistency, like speaking out or whatever it is that you want to develop. Actually, I can go back to that. Like, don't underestimate the value of consistency in achieving any goal that you want. So like this applied for me on being able to speak out and use this gift of being quiet, you know, and having this gift of, okay. And then I became a guide and a meditator and whatever, you know, I use the gift that you have, you know. Most people are trying to be like somebody else. And I'm saying like, no, like use the gifts that you have and then build consistently on them.
You see, so here's what's coming up. So as a kid, I was an introverted extrovert, right? So I had this very quiet side that was by myself a lot, but I found that introverted side was great because it allowed me to see things, because I wasn't being confused by other stuff. I could see the decision that somebody made, and I could see that where that took them, and then decide if I wanted to make the same decision. The extroverted side was cool because when I did that stuff and I was in that energy, then opportunities would come to me because people would say, hey, give that guy that because he's loud or whatever he is, right? So I found that kind of helped me in many ways. So like maybe there's people here watching now saying I'm quiet or I'm extroverted or I'm this or I'm that. So where I'm getting to here is that so you've got the human design angle, I get that. And then you've got you as a kid growing up, as you mentioned, right? So you were the quiet kid. You were wondering, you know, why is it that people fight? What's going on there, you know? So I wonder if there are people here watching now thinking, you know, I feel called to become a guide. I feel called because I'm quiet and I can see things before they happen and people confide in me easily and I feel that I can help them on their journey. So to those people there, you know, like what, if there's any advice, almost like an advice to your younger self in a way, right? What advice would you give them?
Trust that you have a gift. Trust that you have a gift and hone it. Like don't try to be like anybody else. You know, I think that was the problem for me. I was trying to be like somebody else and not honoring the gifts that I have. So we all have a gift. We all have a superpower, you know, and it's a matter of just be consistent in developing it. First, find it. Find a way to find it. It could be through meditation or practice or human design, gene keys, whatever you want. Try to, or find a guide that can tell you like, hey, actually you have this thing, you know? And from there, like start working on it. Like it doesn't have to be tomorrow, just think it as a lifetime thing, you know? It's gonna take maybe 10, 20, 30 years, doesn't matter. Just growing in that direction. Just like be you, you know? Thrive by being you.
And how did you find yours? Yeah.
For me, the meditation practice was the most important, but also studying all these systems, you know? There are so many times when I was studying these systems that I heard something and I was kind of like,
it all fell into place, right?
Like everything fell into place. Like, everything makes sense, yes. You know? With this human design thing, it is fantastic. You get a reading for someone and they'll tell you like, oh, it's okay for me to be like that? Oh my God. You know, you feel like a mantle of joy falling down.
So human design, can everybody find it online? So if you
type human design in Google, you will find it.
And they'll come up with a test that you can do?
Yeah, you can put like human design free chart, and like you'll find it.
Right, so human design free chart. If this is resonating, check that one out. And so age, because I'm really interested to know how it has happened, because I get that human design gave you that kind of vision of who you are, and it made sense that all these things that you had going on, it's like, oh, that's why I'm like, of course, well, that makes sense, right? All of these insights. So, but which age were you? And I'm interested to know, you know, again, not really just for me, it's for people, because I know that, you know, like, okay, for me, when I look back, I see different road markers, right? Which led me to who I'm becoming. And it was the ability to view those from a different angle or a different direction. So I could have viewed them as being negative, or I could have, just for the sake of argument, or I could have viewed them as actually that one there gave me empathy, the racist attack that happened when I was 12. And for me, from the age of 12, I knew what I was supposed to be doing. But that's not necessarily happens for a lot of people. So if you can take us back a little bit, so I get who you are now, and I get where you came from, but what was the link between the two? In a way, perhaps there's some people listening here that can relate to your story and could be like, you know what? That's kind of where I am. And if he can do it, then maybe I can too. So, and this is that essence of how we can inspire other people, right? So coming back to the question, it's so we've got the beginning of you, we've got where you are now, but what we haven't got is the link between the two. So some things that maybe happened, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, something that began to move you on this direction.
I was very unhappy. I was profoundly unhappy, like suicidal kind of unhappy.
Why?
I just felt like this world wasn't the place for me. I don't know. So my dad waking up at 8 a.m. and working till 6 p.m. and coming home and arguing with my mom, and like they were really unhappy. It's like, I don't want to do that. And then, going to school, and then even college, like it wasn't not a place that I was comfortable with. So I was like, okay, these answers that my parents are giving me are not working for me. The answers that I'm seeing in society are not working for me. I'm going to start digging somewhere else. And I started digging everywhere. And I went to every class or workshop that you can imagine that I was available. And I've told you, like, from meditation to plant medicine to, like, I went through a whole spectrum, and I traveled, and I've been, like, in Europe, in the US, in Thailand, like all over the place, Brazil, like you name it. So I went seeking for something. And I think there are a lot of people, especially here in Bali, that are just expatriated from the West and saying, like, this doesn't work for me. I need something else. I'm not sure if it's Bali, but they're here and saying, like, I need something else. I need to see a different type of way to live your life.
Thank you. What really interests me, what stopped you from committing suicide?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's interesting.
I think there was something inside of me saying, like, it gets better. Wait a little bit. It's like one of those bad movies. In the first half hour, the movie's kind of bad, but it's like, your friend is like, it gets better. Yeah.
Was there like a voice? I'll quickly explain this. So, as I mentioned, I was an introverted kid. Mm-hmm. I was extremely unhappy because I had this identity crisis. Mm-hmm. Black kid, children's home. 13 years at school, the only black kid at school, wherever it was, and I felt as though I was white, not black. All of my, views of the world were Caucasian views. There's no blame being assigned. I'm just saying how it was. And so I had this problem with how I looked. I had a mirror to my face. I'd spend time in my room. No one even knew this. And I would pull myself apart physically. Like, this is too big. This is too wide. This is too small. It's never too small. It's always too big. Damn it! But not in the place where it mattered. Stop it. Right? I was 12. Give me a break. And so what happened was that, like, and I don't think I would have done it. Right? I don't think so, but I definitely thought about ending it, for sure, right? But I remember one day in my lowest place, I didn't know it was the lowest at the time, but I guess it was, out of the voices that were pulling me apart, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, this you need too much, this you need too little, change this, change that. There was another voice. And it was the first time that I heard it. It was like this warm, supportive voice. First time I heard it, or remember hearing it. There you go. And this voice said, look after your skin. What? Look after your skin. What the hell is that about? But it wasn't what it said, even though it cracks me up thinking about it now. But it was the tone and the frequency and the resonance of where it was coming from that I inherently felt, you know what? Like, this is a voice I need to listen to. That's what it And even now, there's a bunch of thoughts that race around my head at any given moment. Not so much in this moment, but there are times, there's things in my life that I need to do things about, and these things are moving. But I always go back to that voice. It's like my soul talking to me. Whether it is or not, who knows? But that's the feeling that I have, right? And it's that feeling of like, you know what? As you mentioned, it's okay, brother. You're learning your stuff. Keep on going. It's okay, brother. Go over here. It's okay, brother. Go over there. Speak to Luciano, right? Find out where he's from, right? So there's voices in my head. So if I ask you, right, at any point in time in your life, has there been a voice for you? Even when you meditate, is there a voice for you, or how does your wisdom come through?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the meditation experience, you go through a lot of these things. Also in the psychedelic experience, you have a connection to some part of you that is not available in the regular state of consciousness. I mean, there's a lot of science behind this about brainwaves. I don't know if you know, like beta brainwaves, alpha brainwaves. So when you change your brainwave state, you get access to different parts of yourself. And the deeper you go into the theta or even the delta state, if you're an expert meditator, you get access to a much bigger range than what you're getting in this everyday day-to-life experience. So yes, for sure you have that voice. And I had so many spiritual experiences, of tremendous grace, like crying, like ecstatic for the gift of being alive, But when you're in
you got to tell us one. Sorry, man, but you put it out there. Come on, man, tell us, explain to us what comes to mind.
I think it can happen as a spontaneous experience. Doesn't need to be. I'll tell you how I got to it, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not that you need to find it in the same way, So as I told you, I practiced yoga for 5 hours a day for a long time. Like I was looking for something. I was looking for God. It's kind of like, okay, give me the thing. When you read the books from the yogis, like Yogananda, blah, 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 and tell you, you get into this experience. And I was like, I want that. What do I need to do? You need to practice 5 hours of yoga every day. Okay. How many years? 10 years. Okay. I want it. And I went and got it. It's this experience that everything is perfect. Everything has a level of detail and perfection that is completely unfathomable to your own mind. And you understand that you cannot possibly control your own life. Because this intelligence, which is the same intelligence that creates a baby in your belly, and you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to make the little finger today. Oh, I'm going to make the little baby kidney. No, it's just happening. And this same thing is happening all the time all around you, and you need to lean into it and trust it, because your mind is not equipped for dealing with this. But this intelligence is. And I want to recite, Rumi, this poet Rumi.
Incredible poem.
So this is my favorite poem from him. And it goes, my friend, do you know what is the difference between you and a saint? It's like you're playing a chess game with God. And God makes a marvelous move, a stupendous move. And the saint goes, God, it's too much. I surrender. Whilst you, my friend, you think you have 1,000 serious moves ahead. And that's us, we think we can control everything. Oh, I'm going to guide my life like this, and we try to think of things. It's ridiculous.
What you seek is seeking you. That's my favorite Rumi quote. What you seek is seeking you. Rumi is a Persian poet from way back in the day. R-U-M-I, if you're thinking about, or if this is resonating with you, Rumi. Now, my brother, you still didn't tell us about the experience.
Okay, so I was doing my regular yoga practice like every day, doing my breathing and all my contractions, and things. And there was something different that day. There was something different. There was as I finished the practice that I did exactly the same every day, I felt some kind of thing opening up at this level of the crown chakra. But what comes after is beyond words. That is the thing. It cannot be explained. You know, I can tell you that I went into a place and this understanding came. But what else can I tell you about it? It's just perfection, ecstasy, God, whatever you want to say.
So how do you get downloads now? Is it during meditation? Is it during random moments of the day when you're on your bike going from A to B and you get a message coming in? And is it for you, is it a written, a spoken, something that happens in your awareness that gives you an insight? Like, how has it been dropping for you?
You have to move out of the way. The thing is, like, we have so much charge with our daily lives and our job and our work, and there's so much going on. You need to, like, deal with that and be present. And of course, it's like you have the door, you know where God lives, you know, and you can go and knock on the door and you do your practices and your meditation, and sometimes the door opens, sometimes it doesn't. And so that's for any person that is doing meditation. Don't judge the success of your meditation, but if you got inspired or not, it doesn't matter. Like if you showed up, that's what matters. You know, just show up every day different. Don't look for the goal, you know. So that's one way. You can go and knock on the door, and sometimes God answers. And there's so many ways to do this. Like the devotional way is so inspiring, you know. You can have an altar and give flowers to goddesses. Like you can do whatever you want, you know. Light candles, you know. There's a little thing. Do you know why they light candles to saints and things like that? It's because you burn this physical material, this paraffin or wax or oil or whatever, and you make it into energy, heat and light. So you're burning some dense material and offering it to turn into energy and light. So this goes up to the upper realms. You know, this is how they use it for generations. So imagine the fire makes things go up and makes things lighter and denser. So they offer their intentions through the candle to the gods. It's just an act of intention. You don't need to turn the candle on. It's just an act of intention of offering yourself, you know? And by knocking every day and offering, it answers back. You know, so that's one way. Meditation and just being in silence is another way. For some people, it might be painting. I don't know. You know? And it can come at any time, really. That's the thing. You can have a huge insight because everything aligned. You just saw a butterfly and it represented something for you that was perfect, and you got it. You know.
See, so what I'm loving, what I'm hearing is that, you know, is that for you, it all unfolds in a way as it's supposed to, right? And, you know, so for example, you know, if I asked you, you know, which I'm not, but if I asked you, you know, like, do you have a morning routine? You'd probably say, Rob, I don't have a morning routine. I just do what comes. But
I do.
I knew it. All right. So then for people here, right, and again, I know that this is your approach. And I love what you said earlier on when you prefaced it by saying to everybody watching here, you know, look, you know, like, this was my insight, doesn't need to be yours. You know, this is what I did, you don't need to do the same, because your experience won't necessarily be the same. It may not. Your experience is your experience, however that unfolds for you, which I really appreciate, because it can get easy for people to say, if I copy him, I'll get the same thing. And it's not necessarily like that, right? You follow you, which is what you're saying earlier on about growing up as a kid. You had this, going through the unhappiness, and thank you for describing that for us, but then you had this understanding of, I've got to stop doing other people, and I've got to start doing me, which what I can expect is that meditation is a huge part of that, because then you really are coming into this field, which we call ours, but we know that it's part of everything else, but that's okay. Another conversation for another day. So I really do appreciate that. So then morning routine, right? Knowing what we just said, and we've said, you know, if you copy him doesn't mean you can get the same result, but what is your morning routine, or what did you do today to get yourself in this state of flow?
I've had a morning routine for years now, and some things I don't move them around. Like the meditation practice is non-negotiable. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter if I have COVID or dengue. Like I don't care. That happens. And then of course, like there are things that are essential. Like having flexibility in your body. Energizing yourself, doing breath work or pranayama, however you want to call it. Doing mindset work. Whenever you go into that meditation state, then you can train your brain to engage with, let's say people go to the gym, right? To lift some weight, and then the muscle adapts, and you get a bigger, stronger muscle. But have you ever done that for your mindset or your emotions? If you're every day getting into visualizing an emotion of joy or excitement or elation or whatever that is, and you're training it every day, what, you think your body's not going to produce more receptors for that same emotion? You're just training it. And it's so straightforward. It's very practical, but people think maybe it's law of attraction or some mumbo jumbo. No, you're just training it. So my own practice consists of meditation, priming, which is this thing of like getting into a state that you want to amplify in your life, that you want to have more of, flexibility training, like with some yoga asanas and stuff like that, some breath work, and then a couple of times a week I like to do sauna, all the biohacking things, because I feel like the body being healthy and strong really helps with the rest of the stuff. If you're having an emotionally bad day, but your body's strong and healthy, and you're like, it's different. It's different. If your health is direct and you're not feeling strong, it's much worse. So I would say, like, keep your entire life in alignment, And again, like Jesus said one thing, he said, don't create a religion. What they did is create a religion and do the same. Buddha say the same. So you don't need to do the same as I'm doing. You need to find a center where you are doing your thing and it works and it's aligned,
So in a minute, guys, any questions, we're going to go to you. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Freedom Day, Bali, because this is all about freedom. But before I get there, so think about if you have any questions, we're going to give you this microphone and you can ask a question. So one thing that you just said, I'd like to know a little bit more about it. You said law of attraction and all that mumbo jumbo, right? So I know everybody's thinking like, damn it, I should have said. But law of attraction, all that mumbo jumbo. So what did you mean by that?
The worst part is I think that it works. The worst part is that I think that it works. But I think it has been blown completely out of proportion by the media. It's like you're just not getting how this really works, and you think it's just I'm gonna think of a Ferrari and it will come. It's not like that. But there is definitely an impact of your mental imprint on the external world for sure. Yeah. There's something that your thoughts influence reality in a way, just not in the way that it's pictured in the Secret or anything like that.
Can you go a bit deeper? So in a way that is not pictured like in The Secret. So yeah, there's something a little bit more. Again, what I love about you is that you tell it how it is and you tell it from your soul, and I love that. And see, because a lot of people here, be watching that and say, you know what, yeah, I think it is mumbo jumbo, and I think that it is blown out of all proportion. So there's always someone that we're talking to, and this show is always about how can we give inspiration and motivation to other people, right? And like we all relate to people differently. Some of us stopped seeing the people. And so a while ago, when I was around all of these axial sages, these people who are incredibly well gifted and known at what they do, I got this line in my head, which is like, don't attach to the messenger, attach to the message. Mm-hmm. And you just said that with Jesus and Buddha. Don't make a religion, right? So it's this thing about a message. So. But it's difficult sometimes not to, because someone's very, the whole aura and energy is like, oh, it's like, oh, and you're being sucked in, right? So, and The Secret was obviously a very defining movie for a lot of different people. And yeah, so with all that I've just said, I'd love to know a little bit more about what you meant. And we've gone into the mumbo jumbo bit, that one's passed away, but it's, you were mentioning that it doesn't work as you think. So can you go into whatever comes up for you?
So imagine like you're doing this this thing. You're visualizing, I don't know, what do you want? A perfect boyfriend or a perfect car, a perfect house? Let's go a little bit deeper. Why do you want that? What would that make you feel? Would that make you feel more accepted? Will that make you feel enough? Would that make you feel like your life is a success? So if you go deeper and deeper and deeper in those layers, you will notice that you don't really want the car. It's not about the car at all. You know, it's about something much deeper. You know, and I've been in funny situations just when this was just starting. You know, I remember when the whole What the Bleep movie came out and The Secret came out and everyone was trying it. I was trying. You know, let's see if I can get this thing. And I would get into this funny situation where I didn't get what I wanted, but I was happy. It's like, you tricked me. You know, it's like I got exactly what I needed. I'm super happy about it, but it's not what I asked. So God has a sense of humor, you know? Yeah, for sure. So I think we need to look deeper at what it is that we really need to feel fulfilled, you know? And it's not the trigger. It's not the external thing. It's something inside, you know? Like, why do you want this thing? Because you want to feel accepted or whatever that is, you know?
Got it, brother. Thank you. And we'll give you a moment to grab some water if you like. Drink, brother, drink. So as you mentioned before, so SpeakuP Monday now is like almost 2.5 years old. Every Monday, every week. And we do a few streams a week now. Clubhouse on Tuesday morning, and we have a random stream overseas to people who can't be here, like Luciano today. And we've got a special, it's the first time that we've collaborated with anybody or anything in 2.5 years, and it's Freedom Day Bali, because, you know, what SpeakuP Monday is about, and what I love about what you're saying, my brother, is it's about setting ourselves free, actually, meaning that we're not persuaded and we're not beholden to outside circumstances. We understand that we need to go within, and connecting with that, realize that actually we're free, right? So this is, at its fundamental essence, what SpeakuP Monday is really all about. So Freedom Day Bali is a part of that, right? And what that is, incredible guy, Richard Harrington, and you know, he was financially free by the age of 24, South Africa. Incredible history. Yeah, he's been on the stage, Forbes entrepreneur. He's been there, he's done that, spoken on stage with thousands, people which are very well known, let's put it that way, and he's here. But what I love about him is that he's a down-to-earth guy who actually he realizes that, you know, as a leader, your role and your job is to create other leaders, right? So in other words, if you're free, your role is to set others free or give them the tools to set themselves free, as you are doing now with meditation that we're going to go into a little bit deeper. You know, that is setting yourself free. That is realizing that you're spirit, man. You're not linked or confined by anything, right? You are free, right? And I love that. So Freedom Day Bali is this Thursday, 5 p.m. That's Bali time, GMT +8, and you can come live to Tropical Nomad, 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's going to be 3 hours, people, but you have to go deep, and we're going to be going really, really deep. So if you want to know more, just keep an eye on our feeds here. I think it's pretty much been over my stories and Instagram posts for the last week. But show up, freedomdaybali.com. You can register there, but it's super cool. And it's free, and it's about empowering you, giving you the tools to set yourself free. We're talking financially, physically, like it touches on so much. So yeah, feel free to come and join us if that resonates. Now, people in the audience, it's been a very zen session today. You know, I can see people just at a nice kind of level, and like it's almost like I feel it's like I was listening to this download the other day, and they spoke about fifth dimensional beings, right? And fifth dimensional conversations, right? I still don't really know what fifth dimensional means.
Me neither.
All right, but what I got though was the power and importance of what you listen to. So what I got was that, you know, like if I was with you every day, there's no doubt I wouldn't be affected and come out more whole, more connected, more empowered in my spirit, because that's what you emanate, you know? So that's what I really take from it, right? So when I mention the word, you know, emanate, you know, so is there anything that you would like people to feel from you? Call it an intention, call it whatever you want to call it, but when people come and sit down with you, right, they've been watching you now and they get a sense for who you are, this very calm, cool guy, looks like Jesus, right? Super cool guy. But is there anything that you would like people to feel in your presence?
That they can be themselves, you know, that everything's okay. You know, what you're really feeling inside, it's okay. It's fine.
Love it. And how can people contact you?
Well, they can reach me through my website. It's my name, lucianoarmani.com. That's it. Or on Facebook. I'm mostly active there. I'm also on Instagram and YouTube too. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of interesting videos about these things. Everything is my name, Luciano Armani. Armani, like the clothes designer, you know? Like
Easy one to, you know, like, it's funny because everyone here is like, oh, yeah, Armani, yeah. So it's like, Mamma Mia, the guy did well, right? So he just came up. So out of all the YouTube videos that you've done, I haven't checked any of them, just so you know as well, I haven't checked any of them. Which one was the most popular and why? If you don't know, which one do you think or feel is the most popular and why?
That's funny, because the most popular is the one that I wasn't expecting it to be popular, because I talked about a topic that is not my usual zone, let's say. I have videos about human design, gene keys, spirituality, channeling sexual energy. But at that point, I was very into brain chemistry. I still am, you know, dopamine, serotonin, and all those kinds of things. And then I was doing research about smart drugs. And I came across some smart drug. It's called modafinil. Modafinil. Yeah. Okay. Which works in your brain in the dopamine system, in the reward system. So I decided to make a video about that. And it became so widely popular, exploded. And I was like, wow, okay. Seems people are interested in this stuff, you know, like spiritual meditation. Nah, I don't want it. You know?
We're in Bali, right? It's like everyone meditates. Everyone's a guru. Sorry, not everybody.
Have you guys seen this movie Limitless? Have you seen this movie Limitless?
Limitless, yeah.
So the movie was inspired on this thing.
Okay,
you know?
got it.
So it's something that like makes you smarter and gives you more drive. Like your brain goes like this. You know, so in between all the research I did, I found that one's kind of like, okay, if you are gonna do biohacking, like you need to know this exists, you know. So that one got very popular. I don't know why. It's kind of a funny story, but I have other videos that went quite popular. I have one about sublimating sexual energy into creative energy.
So that's a great one. So that so again, which energy into which sexual energy?
Sexual energy, like this creative energy that you have in your body, and you can bring it up to your head, you know, to Taoist techniques or Hindu techniques, and this is creative energy. You know, the Taoists call it the Shen. You have the Qi, which is like your life force, the Qing, which is the sexual energy, and the Shen, which is the spiritualized sexual energy.
Oh. So is this like, because we had a lady on the show called Genevieve Pleasure, right? Genevieve Pleasure, yeah, you heard right. And yes, she's a sexologist, okay? Let's just get it out there, get it out the way, so you know. And it's on our YouTube library, super interesting. Like it challenged me, right? Because, you know, I like to think that I'm a liberal sort of person, right? And but then when it came to this particular interview, I noticed what came up when I was sharing it for people to watch, that I felt inhibited. So some part of me was like, you know, I don't really want to be, you know, SpeakuP Monday, sexologist. You know, I was thinking like, oh, I'm not sure this is such a good idea, Robbie. You know, can you get out of this? And part of me was seriously considering, right? But then being aware most of the time, I was like, well, Rob, come on, man, this is just you. Like, these are your own misconceptions or whatever's coming up for you. This is what is triggering. just let it go, man. So let it go, and still invited a lot of people. But what I realized through that interview was the power of just what you've just said. And this Think and Grow Rich, right? Who knows the book, Napoleon Hill? Everyone, pretty much, right? And there's a chapter called The Sex Transmutation of Energy. Sex transmutation of energy. Now, if we're being honest, right? If we're being honest, I say, how many people really understood that chapter? Put your hand up and be like, you got it. See, one person, smart ass, right? One person, right? But in a room, that's what really interested me about this interview. So as it transpires, she has billion-dollar clients, like billionaire clients, right? She's a phenomenal person, and I'm so glad we did the interview. So if you want to see it, just check on the YouTube library, Robert Ian Bonnick, SpeakuP Monday. And but she is such a phenomenal person who I love, and like she also, the way that she connected the sex energy with I love bringing people together in terms of through empathy most of the time. As I said before about the Russian lady who was on last week, through that I got a whole new sense of what being Russian would be like. And then I get and I understand why I would, maybe if I'm a Russian male, then I would get why I act the way that I do. You know, 70-80% of Russian males were killed, were wiped out, right, in Russia, wiped out through wars and civil wars and all the rest of that. And so many stories. And then when the walls have ears, I mentioned before, so you can't speak. If you speak, the chances are you're going to be in jail if not killed. So therefore you adopt this exterior that's very harsh. I don't trust anybody. Well, of course not. And it's in your DNA, in your history, but we're going to that some other time. So with this sexual energy, what I didn't realize was this connection between, this sexual energy that we all have and how we can actually use it to unite us in love. And it blew my mind. When I felt it and I saw it, I was like, wow. When I saw it, I was like, damn, I should have invited more people to watch it, right? Because it's phenomenal. So the question, sex transmutation of energy. So you mentioned before about sexual energy to creativity. And I know that you did a YouTube video on it. Watch his YouTube video, guys, right? But can you give us a few insights of what it is, how you do it, and if there are any insights that come of it?
I'll try to make it as simple as possible. There are many practices, both from the Hindu and the Taoist practices, which is more Chinese, and they have to do with like using first certain contractions of the throat and the sphincters and the belly. Yeah, you tuck it in, and also with this, so you create an effect like a pump, between the neck and the hips. And this you create a pump. So what happens with this is like the cerebrospinal fluid that is inside of the spine and in the cranium. You create a sort of a pressure thing going on, and this exerts some pressure on the pineal gland. Yeah, the pineal gland inside of it has these things called transducers. A transducer is something that transforms one type of signal into the other. Yeah, so the transducer that we have in the pineal gland translates pressure into information. It turns the pineal gland into a radio receiver, let's say. So what we do in these practices is do this kind of things with breathing and so on and so forth, and you try to exert some pressure into the pineal gland. And this can bring states of expanded awareness, heightened creativity, like you can have a spiritual experience, you can have visionary effects. And this is how many geniuses throughout the ages had brought things to us, like Nikola Tesla, to name one. He had all of these inventions. So what he did is like channel the sexual energy. Instead of excreting it, let's say, through the sexual organs, send it upwards, and push it into his third eye to go into this creative state. It's not the only thing you can do. You can also put it in your heart to have a different type of connection with your lover. You can put it in many places, The Chinese Taoist masters can move the energy at will whenever they want in the body. But what I can tell you, for instance, there's a practice for men that it's a non-ejaculatory practice. So the men can withhold the ejaculation, and instead of ejaculating however many times they do, they ejaculate like once a month, let's say. That's a healthy number. And you do these practices, and you start seeing an increase in awareness, an increase in drive, in productivity. Like, to be honest, it has been essential for me. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have gotten here. It gave me like a huge boost.
You know, and the question that drops in, by the way, if anyone's got any questions, just put your hand up, we'll get a microphone to you. I was supposed to hand over to you, but it's too much going on. I'm like, damn, but another question came up. It's almost like when you say, I've got one more question, and you keep going. It's like that. So out of all of the connection activities that you've done, plant medicine, meditation, this one, you know, is there any, and I'm not going to ask you which one's better, because I know that's a terrible question and it's synonymous with who you are, right? It's personal. But is there any one particular one outside of meditation that gave you like a huge insight?
I would say the meditation combined with these tantric practices, those two together are very powerful. That gives you an edge, a huge edge in life.
And like, what would be, you know, like in this, talking about, this is more utopian now, right? So, you know, some people, you know, I ask them, you know, like, if you had a prayer for the world, what would it be? And others, others, different answers, right? So just popped in. So if you had a prayer for the world, because I see you a little bit differently to how I saw you before. Mm-hmm. Still the same respect. Still the same, but I understand you more now. So I get more about who you are as a person, and in a way, why you are who you are, which is amazing, right? So that's why, possibly why that question, which I've never asked anybody on this show, came up, right? So if you did have a prayer for the world, what would it be, and why?
For everyone to awaken to their true nature.
Love that. And so what comes up for me now is something which my brother Richard was saying, and it's this, you know, see if I get this one right. 3 steps. The first step, and this is, we're talking about wealth, just to be clear, make it easy, you know, is this affirmation, right? Affirmations, journaling, right? To get our mind state into a certain frequency of realizing that we're source. I am abundant health. I am abundant wealth. I am abundant love. Affirmations, journaling, visualization. Level 1. Level 2 is this, you know, maybe I got this wrong. Richard, help! Just kidding. So level 2 then is about realizing that I am this abundance, that I am spirit, pure spirit, and so on. This bit now, where it goes to here, was quite interesting for me, because then it was about surrendering. So you're already in abundance, things are already coming in, and then it's about surrendering to the spirit within you, which is part of every spirit, and being led by that to what is it I should do now, right? Which might be allowing and helping people to find themselves. It might be like Nelson Mandela had his particular view about, I mean, come on, when he, 27 years in prison, whatever it was, and he came out, his country was in civil war, and he had the opportunity to either light that fuse and not create, it was already there, but then a civil war could have broken out that could have engulfed the whole of South Africa. But he chose something else. So within that 27 years of going through all the hate and the violence and the revenge and the anger, came something else. And perhaps, because I don't know him personally, but perhaps what it was this surrendering to spirit. So when I say to you, you know, surrender to spirit, like, what comes up for you?
Well, first, you need to at least have some kind of experience, some kind of tiny grasp of what this thing is. You can call it God, the universe, whatever, but you have to somehow have some kind of a foothold. We call it grace, like in the tantric circles. Grace, when grace comes, like you don't look for it, but it comes and you know how it feels, like how it tastes. So you have a first thing to say, like, okay, I've seen the moon. If I tell you that's the moon, you need to have seen it first. Otherwise, it's something for you that doesn't have a foothold. So you need to have seen it once at least. So I can tell you, hey, the moon, So once you have this experience of grace, you know that is possible. You can be devotional to that. You can enter into a state of devotion to that, and you can let yourself be led by that and trust that, especially when it gives you a difficult situation like we were talking about today. Sometimes it catapults you very easily, it puts you in the perfect place, and sometimes it gives you a ball of like barbed wire. It's like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? But you need to trust that whatever skill or understanding you come through by untangling this barbed wire is exactly what you need to keep moving forward. And one thing that is really important, sometimes we get caught up in goals that are far ahead of us, and we need to look here, right in front of our nose. What needs to be done now? What needs to happen now? And now that surrender is to whatever mundane thing happened right now, not something far out in the future.
And so this thing about grace, I spent a little bit of time around classical Indian meditation. It's probably what I connect strongly to. And so it was that Shaktipat given by a guru. It's this energy, this feeling, and I get what you meant. That's what I tasted. And it was like, well, how can I get more of this? Right? There you go. There you go. There you go. There it is. And then it's like, well, now it's up to you. Now it's up to you. I love that. I'm going to ask you, where did that response come from? I love it, but what's that about?
Because I think it's very... I think it's very natural. It's very natural. I did the same thing, Like it's like we were some kind of ecstasy junkies or some kind of stuff like that. It's like, oh, that was really nice. Can I write again? But this can turn into a life of really beautiful devotion, Like the poets, again, Rumi, Hafez, are talking about these things all day. Like, I have tasted your nectar and now I'm drunk and can only think of you, God. What have you done to me? And it's a life of constantly looking and cultivating this, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So what we were talking about earlier on, and it was a very short conversation, what it is that, so my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes outside of Rumi is by a guy called Goethe. And it goes like, it's a longer poem, but the two lines in there that really resonate is, the moment one truly commits oneself, then providence moves too. So the moment that one truly commits oneself, then providence moves too. So providence isn't the place in America, New England coastline, which is what I thought it was. It's like, oh, New England, I have no idea why it's in this poem, but I love the sound of it. And so providence means then God moves too. So what that means is that it's like the universe conspires to support you in reaching whatever it is you're going for by synchronicity, but in general, what I was thinking and feeling were these positive things of like you said before, as I said, it's a bit like, I want to go over there and I'm walking really slowly. How can I get there faster? Say, oh, look, here's a catapult. Woo! I'm like in the air flying going, this is pretty cool. I have no idea how I'm going to land, but this is pretty cool. And I'm getting there quickly. But what we were saying was that it's not only presents itself as like as a positive force, or what we feel is like a positive force, but sometimes it presents itself as a huge challenge that you referred to as barbed wire, which I love, right? So this huge challenge, and it's like, well, how is this helping me to my goal? Well, the thing is that in solving whatever that challenge is for you, bestows upon you the gifts, traits, and attributes and skills that you need to move you to the next place. And that's what we're talking about. But yeah, that poem, Goethe, wonderful poem. And by the way, if you're ever on Clubhouse, there's a beautiful lady who we interviewed called Tasia Valenza. Tasia Valenza, she's an Emmy Award winning actress, Star Wars actress, Star Trek actress, TEDx speaker, and something else I can't remember. She's a founder of, it's called Give Great Voice. Give Great Voice. It's a movement. So on Clubhouse, check her out. She has a regular room there, and it's about reciting poems and things that inspire us. It's a really, really, truly powerful group. So yeah, Give Great Voice. So look, I'm feeling that we're almost complete for this conversation. There's going to be more, but if anyone does have a question, feel free to ask. Beautiful. So we have a question there. So Sister Bella, if you could pass the microphone to our sister here, she has a question. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob and Luciano. It's been a heart-opening conversation. I have two questions. The first one is very quick. About sexual transmutation. So you said for the guy it's once a month. How about the girl?
Well, it's more complex because on the woman it depends on the type of orgasm that you have. So to make it very short, like the clitoral orgasm is like the one that they try to avoid in the woman. And how can you tell which is the right one? Like if you feel depleted afterwards, it's the orgasm that you need to like keep aside. You know, if it's like the guys, you know, when the guy comes, he's done. When you have that and you're done, that's what you don't want. If it makes you feel more activated, gives you more life force, you can have those types. It's a much more complex theme. I recommend you to read the book Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak Chia.
Okay.
Has a really good resource for the female part.
Okay, thank you. One more, right? Around human design. So in your perspective, like what's the ultimate goal of knowing your design, right? We have like open centers and divine centers in human design. Which one should we focus on more? And you know, like what's the ultimate goal? Who is our best self?
Well, the ultimate goal is that your life is flowing. You know, that the river of your life is going without obstruction, that you're not facing these strong resistances or trying to be someone that you're not. So I would say that is the goal, facilitating your life, you know? And according to the centers, the open and defined, that is like a super big thing in human design. But to make it short, the defined centers are what you can trust because it's you. You can lean on that. The things that are not defined, that are open, are the centers that are white in your body graph. That is where you receive conditioning from the outside. So you have to be really aware of that. Like if you have, for instance, undefined ego center, that will mean that you can be influenced in trying to prove yourself or become someone in life, or trying to really grind into goals that you don't really care about, but you're being like influenced from the outside. So defined, you can trust. Undefined, you're getting conditioning from the outside. Pay attention.
Thank you.
Great question. And you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, like you never know what it is specifically that resonates with people. So each of the Q&As that we do, you know, is like the energy is unique to that Q&A. And we're in Bali, right? So if we use it, we just take away with them that, yeah, you know, helps them to get to the next place in whichever journey that they're on. All right? So I'll give you about a minute and a half to think about that. All right? Now, in the meantime, for those of you here watching on either Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube Live, firstly, if you like what happens here, maybe it's your first time to join us here on SpeakuP Monday. So SpeakuP, that's one word, SpeakuP Monday group on Facebook is a really good resource. We're also on Instagram, but Instagram is more of a bulletin of what's coming up. But most of the work, most of the stuff happens on SpeakuP Monday group. So join that group. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is my name, Robert Ian Bonnick. minus sign or dash or hyphen, whatever you want to call it, SpeakuP Monday. And then we've got the last 70 episodes in that SpeakuP Monday folder. And it's everybody from, again, we deal with entrepreneurs, leaders and coaches, and we've had some of the most incredible, fascinating people from all sorts of walks of life, some of who are really well known and some of them who are not known at all. But the point is that this is the deep dive Q&A, and we all have wisdom within us. But most of the time, maybe the right questions or environment isn't there for us to release them. So that's what this is really all about. So it's about people inspire people. And it's about Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which in my best Indonesian accent is, unity in diversity. And this is one of the things which I absolutely love and something which I absolutely embrace. So, as I mentioned, we have 3 streams a week. So Monday, 6:30 here at Tropical Nomad. And you're welcome to join us in a studio audience. We're either inside or outside, underneath the stars, which is beautiful. So come and join us. It's free, always free. Then on Tuesday, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, we have the Clubhouse version. Now that one is all about the gut and mental health, which would be fascinating. So 7 a.m. we have a panel of incredible experts from around the world to discuss, what we put in here, how it determines our health mentally. Because this week is all about freedom of self. And then finally on Thursday we have the first collaborative event or initiative that we've ever done. And it's with Freedom Day Bali. So we're hosting Freedom Day Bali, and go to that website, Freedom Day Bali. And we have from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. GMT +8. Come and join us here at Tropical Nomad. We'll be out in the garden or inside here, one of those two. Or you can join it online through my IG Live or YouTube. But what I would recommend is that you register, and it's all free. freedomdaybali.com. And we're talking about today with Luciano Armani, that freedom that we all have, that we're all part of, but we don't necessarily recognize. And I love the work that you do, my brother, of bringing people back to their journey, back to their true essence and their true nature, which is so important, especially now. And Freedom Day Bali is part of that. That one is geared more towards the financial, but also the mental and emotional. So join us then. If that resonates with you, come and join us. It's going to be amazing. So thank you to Tropical Nomad. Today we have Sister Bella and Brother Guzman seeing us out. You've done an amazing job as usual. Thank you so much, guys. So without further ado, thank you to you for watching this. And if this resonates with you, maybe you know someone who you feel might love to hear what happened here tonight. So feel free to share this, Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. So in the meantime, my brother, Luciano Armani, thank you so much for, I think it was 3 months ago where you put your hand up and said, Rob, I think I'd love to be a guest. And I remember you sitting here, and I remember, I didn't know you, but you come with this energy. And I was like, well, of course. Well, of course, Luciano. So really happy that we did this. And it's part of the conversations that I know we're going to have in the future. I love where you are and the fact that you're open about it, and the fact that you do acknowledge that you're not always in this space, but you've got a whole bunch of tools to get you back there pretty quick if you find that you're not there. And the work that you do, or the mission that you have, or the essence that you perform is helping us refine or find our way back to that essence or source and soul. Super important and powerful, especially now. So my brother, thank you, and love to you, my man, and let you see us out. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, man. Like, I think in the same way that you can say that you feel my energy with this calmness, I also feel like your energy is super infectious, like super positive, you know. I feel like super empowered also being next to you, and I feel like you bring this aura of friendliness and respect and joy for everyone. And I also can say like, oh, Robert getting mad or angry, no, that doesn't happen. No, that's not reality.
It's the kids, damn it!
But I really appreciate that you also, I feel you have the tools to, you know, go back, and you have the awareness to go back. And I think what brought us together today was also that you listened to your own intuition. You know, you didn't know me and I didn't know you, but we felt like, yeah, that feels right, you know. And I think that's what I want to leave people with, you know. The mind is very useful for everyday things. Like, I need to go to the supermarket and buy some oil, or I need salt, or I need to do this thing to pay the rent at the end of the month. For those things, the mind works. But don't try to solve the deep questions with the mind. Don't try to find yourself with the mind. Don't try to find love or direction in life with the mind, because the mind is just not equipped for that. You're giving it a task that it's impossible to resolve for it, and it will only keep speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking and spending energy in something that it can't do. You need to find a deeper place within yourself for those things.
Thank you, my brother.
Respect, man.
Thank you, everybody.